Hello, this is Rory O'Connor. I'm the rugby correspondent at Media House Ireland and a former player at UCD RFC. In this series of interviews, in conjunction with club sponsor Crowe, we talk to past and present players who shared their memories of the club and how it impacted their career and life on and off the field. In this interview, we catch up with John and Vinny Hammond. Vinny played and coached at UCD and is now a high performance analyst at the IRFU and a key part of Warren Gatland's backroom team on this summer's Lions tour of South Africa, his second tour in a row with the Lions. Vinny's dad, John, became involved with the club during Vinny's time playing and is a familiar face to everyone at Belfield, having done sterling work as the club's administrator. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the Hammonds, Vinny and John, two stalwarts of UCD RFC. And John, maybe I'll start with you. You've been, I think I've seen you described as the heart and soul of the club for the last decade or so. I don't know if that sits well on your shoulders. You're a humble man. But how did you become involved in college, and what does the club mean to you?
Yeah. Well, a little bit. I'm not too sure about the heart and soul, because going back, I don't come from a rugby background, which is interesting. It was quite alien to me. There wasn't a whole lot of it around the parish of Fairview or the surrounding districts. Kind of when I was growing up, GAA was the common denominator all over that place, and that part of the north side, Hill 16 was where you ended up on a Sunday afternoon on the hill, regardless of who was playing there. It was just everybody went and everybody enjoyed it. And then it was in Joey's in Fairview, which was kind of a hotbed at that time of GAA. It's kind of changed now. I played under 15s hurling for Dublin schools against Kilkenny in a Leinster final in Croke Park. And you can imagine how that went, I'm sure. The guy I was marking scored 2-7. And that was only in the first half. So I didn't re-emerge for the second half, as they say. Anyway, that's a little bit of background. How I got involved in the rugby, I suppose when Vinny and Brian, they went to St. Mary's in Mines. And then I went to rugby games where they were playing, and thereafter to mini rugby up in St. Mary's. Vinny was playing first of all, then was coaching, so was Brian. And that was kind of the involvement that I had at that time. And then I suppose when he went to UCD, I followed him out there. First of all, as an interested parent spectator, then as the under-20s bagman for a number of years, and more recently then as the administrator of the club. Whether that's the heartbeat of the club, which you described earlier, or not, I'm not too sure, but it was a very enjoyable experience from which I retired last year. And worked with some great people out in UCD, and still go out there quite regularly on Wednesday mornings for a cup of tea in the cycle out. Anyway, so during back to the rugby and back to
this is some answer. That was the question.
Anyway, I just want to finish up here. So when Vin was the coach then of the head coach of the under-20s, and I was bagman. He won with them 5 trophies from 5, and followed that the following year with 4. So I was very proud to be part of that setup. It was unique and it was great for the club. I think it was James Meenan was president at that time, and it meant a huge amount to everybody involved. And that really was kind of my involvement right back and through and up to the present day.
Vinny, you can't get rid of him.
I could have just headed off and got a coffee.
You're like, what? How did you like? I played with you, Vinny. Like, so apart from that highlight of your rugby career, how did you end up playing in college? And like, how did you start there? And kind of, how did you enjoy playing first before you became a coach?
Yeah, leaving school, I just went straight to. I was hell bent on going to UCD because I really wanted to. That was the only university I wanted to go to. For whatever reason, I was so keen to do it. So once I went there was a couple of Mary's guys ahead of me that had been through UCD, and Rob Henson, I think at the time, was one of the players I would have, in school, a good couple of years ahead of me, and said like, "Oh no, you got to go here." it's brilliant. And yeah, so myself and Stephen Gristin, who's a really good friend, both went. We were the only two from Mary's to go that year. But the best part of it was actually the guys that you meet that weren't in your own school. So yeah, that was me. I'm a lot shorter than my dad there in answering terms.
Well,
But you've stayed.
I don't know if they paid for the premium version of Zoom here, so I don't know if we've got the time.
But so you start off playing 20s, but you like some people come through the club and are in and out in a couple of years, but a lot of people stay on, like myself and yourself, who retain a connection for longer. What was it about playing 20s, going on playing more, at adult level, and then becoming a coach? So how did that kind of process happen for you?
I think for me it's just people, like, you just get you get surrounded by people who you're either learning something off, or you enjoy their company or being around them, and there was just so many people like that in the club, and there still is, and that would, for me, makes it an easy decision to stick around and to be part of. There's nothing like, I mean, you could look and go, well, you want to be part of whatever club. Once you've got people like that, it's just easy, and it's fun. There's a lot of enjoyment. There's a lot of like, as you know, as much as anyone, there's a lot of off the pitch stuff that keeps you in UCD, that that really is like stuff that you'll kind of remember the rest of your life. Tours, the fun that happens after matches, and that kind of stuff, away trips and all of those. So yeah.
At what point, like, we know about all the great players who've come through the UCD system and gone on to play for Ireland and play for the Lions and play for Leinster and other provinces as well. But you forged a career in professional rugby out of your time as a kid playing for UCD. At what point did you realise that staying in rugby was what you wanted to do, and that there was kind of an alternative path that you could go coach and then go into this analytics world? I know you went to Cardiff, I think, and studied there as well. So you used your academic path to go there, but also I'm sure a lot of the rugby knowledge that you picked up, working with all these players at UCD, the coaches, helped you along that journey as well.
Yeah, I think that's once you realise as a kid, like, that you're not going to be a professional rugby player. If you still have passion for the game, like there's other ways to work in sports. I think there's lots of different kind of avenues now, more than ever. But obviously, being around in UCD, you are with players who have gone on to make it. You're surrounded by coaches who've gone on to coach at higher levels, and again, it just makes things easy because you're surrounded by success, and that just drives you and brings you along with it. Like, so it's very hard to be ordinary in a group of people that are all achieving so much, that I think everyone gets swept up by that tide.
John, can you maybe talk to me a little bit about the work that goes on in the background, but behind the scenes? Because we see the team play, we see the really great players that UCD has, but a lot of work and effort goes on behind the scenes to keep all that show on the road.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of the work that I had to do working sort of as the administrator in the office was connected with the teams, the hospitality, the transport, the availability of people at the weekend when there would be a match, setting up the bowl, welcoming the teams to the hospitality side, to a certain extent the financial aspects of that. So it came in kind of from all sides, and which was a great way of getting to know everybody in the club. And then, inevitably you'd be holding the hand of the president through his presidency, to make sure that he knew what he was doing and I knew what he was doing, which was important too. So that was some of the stuff what we were doing, as on a week-to-week basis, and then through UCD itself, I suppose it's the arranging of pitches, it's the contacting the team coaches, that they know where they're going and where their match is, and then there's also the laundry aspect of it, which was quite a big job, to be honest, but again, quite enjoyable. So that was a lot of the stuff, yeah. But it was great.
Yeah,
enjoyed every minute of it.
I know that the Daffodil Day promotion is something that you were heavily involved in, and also the tag rugby that was set up in the university, which probably brought a lot of people to the club that wouldn't previously have had a connection. It didn't play full contact or anything like that.
That's a very good point, Rory. I'm very proud of both of those. Certainly Daffodil Day was an opportunity for the players to give something back into the club, and they did really, really well in so doing. A lot of our contracted players that we wouldn't see around the club for obvious reasons, they would all come back for a photo shoot to promote the day, and it was very, very well attended every year, obviously up to last year, and well supported by Crowe, I have to say, as well. And the tag rugby, it struck me not long after being in UCD Rugby Club that it was kind of a little bit elitist. If you didn't play rugby, then there wasn't any kind of room for you. So we set up the mixed tag rugby. It started off very, very slowly, but then picked up a lot of momentum. And the last year that we had it was 500 students on a Monday afternoon playing tag rugby and enjoying every bit of it. And also it became part of the academic side of sports and exercise science. And the lecturer over there, Amy Birmingham, was able to write it into one of her modules, of which students got credit. So very, very successful, and it'll be going again.
You mentioned pride. You must be very proud of the man at the bottom of my screen there, Vinny, and you must get a great kick out of seeing him on TV alongside Andy Farrell or Joe. And
yeah,
things he's gone on to do. You've gone from being a proud dad on the sideline to watching on TV.
Well, his mother racing across the room with her camera and shouting at me to pause the picture. That's the one, I suppose, kind of sticks in my mind about that. But absolutely, yes. There's no doubt about that, Rory. We're very proud of what he has achieved to date. It's unfortunate we had to get him out of bed early this morning to appear, but having said that, I was used to that when it was his years at home. But I'd like to endorse what you said. It's a great opportunity for him, and to reach the kind of pinnacles of the Two Lions tours. That's terrific, and myself, Brian, and Marie are very proud of him.
Vinny, can you just give us a kind of a little bit of an insight into what you do? Because I think people will anyone who doesn't know you from the club, and most people would, but people who don't would recognise you from being in that coach's box in that high pressure environment, because you sit, you do sit. You've got a great best seats in the house, even better than the press box, I think. And also like just going on the lines this summer, what it means to you, and also what it entails. Like, what is your day to day going to be on that? I know it's a very broad question, but just an idea of what you do, because it's a very interesting job, and I think people probably don't really understand the nuances of it.
Yeah, I think it's probably twofold now. You're dealing with like the actual game and planning toward a tactical plan towards an opposition and everything that goes into that from week to week, from individual preparation to individual planning and then working obviously with our own players and our own coaches and trying to make sure that they have everything that they need. Like you don't want to oversell anything that we do, so we try and just to be that extra set of eyes or that extra that extra voice that maybe looks at something that isn't as obvious or that is sitting underneath the surface a little bit, and then in the data kind of analytics and that kind of side of things, again, that's probably you're trying to extract maybe one or two things from hundreds of things. There's so much data available to coaches and to everybody, yourselves included in media, and it's actually trying to find out what matters. So that's part of my journey at the moment. I'm in my final year again in UCD, so hopefully graduate again in June of next year, by June of next year. But that journey is continuing in trying to find out what actually matters in all of that. So from a Lions perspective, it's interesting. The last tour there was myself, Rúaidhrí Bowen from Wales and Mike Hughes from England, and this time we've got Mark Kinnaird from Wales and Gavin Vaughan from Scotland, and again Rúaidhrí's there from Wales. So like you go in with preconceived ideas of what way other teams operate, and the best thing about the Lions is, well, for me anyway, is just letting your guard down and say, right, this is how we or I do things normally, and everybody shares, and you just come back a better analyst, you come back a better rugby player. I think it's the same for the coaches. They come back as better coaches. But it is that letting your guard down. I think my dad said it to me the last time before we left about, just be open, and the more open that we were with each other over there, the more everybody got out of it, players and coaches, staff, backroom team, everything. So yeah, day to day, I don't think I'm going to be in the coach's box for this tour. I think it's the same as the last one. I'll be on the sideline, it's even better, and you do pinch yourself. It's an absolute privilege, like to be that close up to some of the best athletes in the world. But at the same time, you don't lose the fact that you're just doing your job, and it's work. And at the end of the day, you close your laptop, and then you go home, and you're in a hotel room, and then you go to bed. After
you don't really go to bed though, do you? Like, you have to stay up all night cutting all the footage together for the coaches.
Yeah, I think it's it's come a long way, Rory. Like, there's not the same amount of manual labour going in. Like, we try and automate as much as we can. We try and outsource the really heavy lifting stuff back to an office in Europe, and they can do that kind of stuff, and then it gives us the opportunity probably to look a little bit more at the structural stuff, or the bit that's potentially not as obvious.
I'll finish up now, lads, but John, could maybe the last year has been a terrible and difficult for everyone, and I guess we're all looking forward to getting back to the bowl, and hopefully in a couple of months' time reconnecting with the club and the kind of things that we've missed through the whole year. How much have you missed being able to just be I know you've retired from your official role, but I'm sure you still would have loved to get down for a few games.
Not retired. He's 100% not retired. He's on calls every day. Daffodil Day 2022 and 2023 is already planned, or
it actually is, yeah. Just to go back there for a minute, I'm delighted to hear that the PhD is coming to an end next year. So we look forward to that, Vincent.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to get back. What I said to the club was, I said, look, on match days I'll be around to do whatever needs to be done, and then maybe not necessarily the hospitality end, but the bowl and all that connects with it. And as we've just said, Daffodil Day is kind of red circle for us as well, and I'll keep that going. I've possibly tag initially, just to get it up and just to get it up and running, it's hard to fully extract from it. But I suppose there isn't the overall waking up in the morning and kind of thinking like, I have this amount to do today for the club to have that right by the evening. So that bit is taken away. So it's more general kind of stuff in my head that I know is coming up, and plenty of time to ride my bike.
You had all the football matches, the Gaelic football the bowl, the fair amount of stuff. For somebody who's retired, it's a lot.
Well, that's the other part of it too. The visiting teams who use the bowl, I kind of mind them as well, and any other events that would be in the bowl, they kind of ask me about. I look after it. So yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
It doesn't sound like you're very retired, but it sounds like you're looking forward to getting back to UCD anyway.
Yeah, I am. I actually am. It would be good. As you probably know, I took a COVID hit way back at the start of the year, which took a while to disappear. But I'm so happy that it has done, and that I can do these things again.
Yeah. Well, lads, thanks very much for your time this morning. Hope everyone enjoyed the chat, and Vinny, best of luck in South Africa. We hope it goes well for everyone, and for Andrew Porter as well. He's flying the flag for UCD over there on the pitch. Brilliant. And John, best of luck. And like, it doesn't sound like much of a retirement, but best of luck with everything, and thanks for everything you do for the club.
Yeah, not at all. And a lot of good people out there that I wouldn't want to be too far away from for too long.